Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 6:32 on Monday, December the 9th, and this is the monthly council meeting for the month of December for the Township of Edwardsburg-Hardin. And the next item of business is the approval of the agenda, and I'm calling on Deputy Mayor Deschamps.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that the Municipal Council approves the agenda as presented. Sir?
Motion to approve the agenda. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. And next item of business is the disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Are there any disclosures this evening? No disclosures noted. And we'll proceed to item 4, delegations and presentations. We have none this evening. Item number 5 on the agenda is the minutes of the previous council meeting on November 25th. Councillor Hunter.
Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that the Municipal Council receives and approves the minutes of the regular meeting dated November 25th, 2019.
Thank you very much. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Now I'm on the next item on the agenda, which is item number 6, business arising from those minutes. Does anyone have any business arising?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do.
Okay.
Just a clarification from staff regarding number 7 under committee meetings. The second paragraph down regarding the library board preparing their minutes, et cetera, et cetera. Has there been any back and forth between staff and the library?
Through the chair, if I may, just prior to my going on vacation, I did speak briefly with Ms. Gladstone, and we discussed the need for the library to have its own policies and procedures with respect to video meetings, and she was going to explore that.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, but that brings that actually brings up 2 issues. One is, my understanding was that the boards and committees that we appoint are required to use our procedural bylaws. Is that not the case?
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, the library board is constituted under its own act, under the Public Libraries Act, as opposed to the Municipal Act. So they have the opportunity to establish their own policies and procedures. We typically would expect that they would copycat ours, if I can put it that way, but they cannot. They can adopt their own.
Okay, and then the next issue that arises is the format of their minutes. So maybe I'll just ask the counselor that represents council on the library board, have they come up with a single person to be responsible, secretary to be responsible for the creation of their minutes? And because that, if our staff is going to spend some time trying to get the minutes in a up-to-date format, we don't want to have to deal with 3 or 4 different people. So do they have a secretary that's responsible for their minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll hence my inquiry to Ms. McKinstry. I will bring that up at the next library board meeting. However, I do suspect that there will be 1 or possibly 2 people filling in as secretary. The secretary is known as Judy Cameron. However, she vacations throughout the winter, so there will be an interim secretary as well. Hopefully, we will be able to adopt a format much like our minutes that we use that we use at council. That's my understanding.
Very good, very good. Is there any other business arising from these minutes? Hearing none. I think I've already called the question on the minutes, so we'll go on then to item number 7 on the agenda, and that does concern minutes of various committee meetings since in December. So the first is the library board meeting of October 29th. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter that municipal council receives the minutes of the public library board meeting dated October 29th, 2019.
Okay, thank you very much. About to call the question. Those in favor?
Aye.
The motion is carried. And I'll just express my concern that I voted in favor of receiving the minutes, but I'm hoping that the next minutes that we receive will be in a slightly different format. So 7B is the Committee of the Whole Administration and Finance. Councillor Dillabaugh.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Cameron. Municipality Council receives and approves the minutes of the Committee of the Whole Administration and Finance meeting dated December 2nd, 2019.
Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to just ask if there's any business arising from these minutes before I call the question on the minutes. I have a couple of items that I'd like to bring out, and you have one?
I do, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Through the chair, I was just wondering regarding item 7B on road allowance buyers road. Has there been any repercussions since our last discussions regarding this situation?
So through the chair, no, there has been no additional follow-up at this stage.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so just on that same on that same issue, because there was a request at the meeting to have staff investigate and get back to us as to whether or not there had been any improvements that that council was not aware of. So can we get that kind of a report? And we don't meet again until January. Can we get that kind of a report sent to us in the interim period?
Through the chair, if it's the wish of council, we can certainly.
I think we all were looking for that. I got that correct?
Correct.
Yes, I see a consensus here. Okay, and then the second, does anybody else have any business arising? Okay, one other, and that was at page 2 of 6, which is item number 5 on the agenda, but it's right in the last paragraph of item 5, where we were discussing pay-per-use heaters at the Spencerville Arena, and in the second sentence there, it was noted that a report was provided to the committee in 2017 which outlined the revenue generated by the pay-per-use heaters in the Cardinal Arena. And I think we did request a copy of that report as well. So has staff been able to get that, find that and dig it out?
So through the chair, yes, we have. We have located that report.
Okay, so can you circulate it to us? Again, we're not gonna meet again until January. If you could just circulate it without discussion, we'd have a chance to review it and bring it back on the January meeting.
Certainly.
Okay, so that's the minutes of meetings, and I'm at item number 8 on the agenda, which is the action and information items that are coming forward from the committees. So 8A, Meadowlands North Subdivision Extension, Councillor Hunter.
Sorry, through the chair?
Oh, I didn't call the question.
Correct.
Sorry. This is the question to receive and approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole, Administration and Finance dated December the 2nd. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, now on that 8A, Meadowlands North Subdivision, Councillor Hunter.
Moved myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that the municipal council recommend in favor of a 3-year extension on the draft plan of subdivision for Meadowlands North Lockwood as recommended by the Committee of the Whole Admin and Finance.
Thank you very much. Discussion, if any? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. 8B, request for proposal municipal auditor, Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Cameron, that the municipality council direct staff and issue a request for proposal to external auditor 2020 as recommended by the Committee of the Whole Administration Finance.
Thank you very much. Discussion, if any? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. 8C, minutes of settlement Giant Tiger vacant land, Deputy Mayor Deschamps.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that municipal council accept the minutes of settlement for roll number 0701-701-020-09916-0000 and process a tax refund to the owners as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Administration and Finance.
Thank you very much. Discussion, if any? Hearing none. Those in favor? Motion is carried. 8D, request to endorse extended ATV use, Deputy Mayor Deschamps.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that municipal council direct staff to inform the United Counties of Leeds Grenville that there are no objections from the municipality for the extension of 1.45 kilometers of road network for the use of ATVs on County Road 44, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Administration and Finance.
Thank you very much. Discussion, if any?
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through the chair to staff. I didn't bring up this question at the last Administration and Finance meeting, but I couldn't find in the write-up or the briefing note that we had at the time, what is the purpose of this, using this 1.45 kilometers?
So through the chair, if I recall correctly, it is so that they do not destroy the snowmobile trail section that would typically be used during the winter time.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor? Motion is carried. 8E, pay scale for summer students, Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hunter that municipal council adopt the new wages as outlined below for the summer student positions with the increases reflected in the 2020 budget as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, Administration and Finance. New lifeguard, under 18, $13.65 per hour. 18 years and older, $14.50 per hour. First year returning lifeguard, under 18, $14.15 per hour. 18 and older, $15 per hour. Second year returning lifeguard, under 18, not available because they must be 18. And 18 and older is $15.50 per hour. Third year returning lifeguard is 18 and older again is $16 per hour. New camp counselor, under 18, $13.15 per hour. 18 and older, $14 per hour. First year returning counselor, under 18, $13.65 per hour. 18 and older, $14.50 per hour. Second year returning counselor, under 18, $14.15 per hour. 18 and older, $15 per hour. Third year returning counselor, under 18, $14.65 per hour. 18 and older, $15.50 per hour. New park student, under 18, $13.15 per hour. 18 and older, $14 per hour. First year returning parks, $13.65, this is under 18, $13.65 per hour. 18 and older, $14.50 per hour. Second year returning parks, under 18, $14.15 per hour. 18 and older, $15 per hour. Third year returning parks, under 18, $14.65 per hour. 18 and older, $15.50 per hour.
Okay,
Finally got a long one.
It's good to see somebody else get one, isn't it?
so discussion of any?
You guys are cool.
Discussion of any? Hearing none, vote to call the question. Those in favor? Motion is carried. And going to 8F in 2019 Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, Green Stream. Councillor Hunter.
Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that the municipal council, one, endorse the county road to water and sewer rehabilitation as a selected project eligible for the 2019 ICIP funding, and two, direct staff to prepare and submit an application under the 2019 intake prior to the January 22nd, 2020 deadline as recommended by the Committee of the Whole and Men and Finance.
Sir?
Thank you very much. Motion's on the table. Discussion, if any? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And item 8G, Edwardsburg Land Bank. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Mayor, it's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh. Whereas the province of Ontario, through Infrastructure Ontario, has notified the township that most of the land in Edwardsburg Cardinal Land Bank has been declared surplus reality to the needs of the province, and whereas Infrastructure Ontario has sent an email via IO's Realty Circulation Portal to identify the surplus realty for township review and consideration in a stage 3 review across the broader public sector. And whereas the township has been invited to express our interest in acquiring some or any of the numerous properties listed in the circulation. Now and therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal hereby expresses the following interests in the divestiture of these lands. 1. Council is interested and requests to be informed of the divestiture process and the strategy which will be used to ensure that privately held land will not be devalued with the sudden large-scale sale of such large acreages, thus diluting the township assessment base. And 2, Council is aware that some of the acreages have been and are presently leased to farmers for agricultural purposes, which through good stewardship methods have prevented this land from becoming overgrown with scrub brush and deteriorating in value. Council is interested in and requests to be informed of the strategy which will be used to return leased farmland to farmers in a manner which respects and rewards their good stewardship of such a valuable resource over more than a quarter of a century. And 3, Council nominated in March 2019 some 2,000 acres identified as the Cedar Grove Road site to the Provincial Job Site Challenge, which has now been refined, revised, and reintroduced by Honorable Prabmeet Sarkaria, Associate Minister of Small Business and Red Tape Reduction, as a new program through which the, almost thought it was finished. Province is searching for large tracts of land, i.e. in brackets, 500 to 1,500 acres that are or could be industrial zoned, that are severed, serviced or serviceable, and able to support large-scale manufacturing operations. Council is interested in responding to the current request for submission of such large tracts and will identify and promote the 2,000 acres identified as P 65-286, P 65-287, P 65-281, P 65-289, P 65-265, P 65-030, P 65-079, P 65-293, P 65-067, P 65-073, P 65074, P 65291, and the notice of circulation received from Infrastructure Ontario. And further that, the resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Pravneet Sakaria, Associate Minister, Small Business and Red Tape Reduction, Honorable Laurie Scott, Minister of Infrastructure, and Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Thank you very much. Motion is on the floor. Discussion, if any. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you.
I'm fine.
Okay. All right, now, the Waterfront Improvement Subcommittee Council update. Councillor Dillon.
Mr. Mayor, I have agreed to speak to this. You have just received tonight a briefing note dated December 9th, 2019. I'd just like to highlight some of the points in this. This is in preparation for our meeting on December 16th, public meeting at the library. And
Legion, I think.
I'm sorry, Legion, you're correct. The 2017 Economic Development Strategy Update indicates waterfront plan as one of the top 10 priorities for Edwardsburg Cardinal. The undertake of the waterfront plan to explore and incorporate the best and most effective use of Edwardsburg Cardinal's waterfront. The plan should include aspects such as passive and active development of the waterfront along the St. Lawrence River, both private and public spaces, reuse and redevelop of the Gallup Canal, access to the waterfront to accommodate activities such as diving, boating, fishing, as well as community gathering, public spaces and entertainment, etc. Active transportation linkages incorporate the east and west connections along the waterfront within the village of Cardinal and Johnstown. On September 23rd, there was a council struck the waterfront revitalization ad hoc committee to explore and develop a waterfront regeneration project designed for the Cardinal Legion Park area, and to retain a third-party consultant to assist with the design and costing. And you have those designs in front of you here tonight, which we'll put up on the screen in just a moment, and I'll go over those very quickly. So the ad hoc committee has arranged for the public meeting in Cardinal on the 16th of December. Following the public consultation, the committee will complete or compile all feedback received to share with council, where the scope, budget, and timelines can be discussed. You're going to see here tonight two concepts focusing on environment, education, exploration, exercise, and expression. The two concepts is not to be viewed as one better than the other. They are two totally different concepts with, I shouldn't say totally different, they all have the same conceptual idea, but with various degrees of different concepts in them. And I'll go over that just a little bit later. Okay, I think we'll just do the slides now. Now the first slide you're going to see is, if you can picture Legion Way, it will be at the westerly boundary where the gap currently is at the moment. Whoops. This is also number one in your package. It's not necessarily it's numbered number one, but it is the top slide. So there it is. Now in this picture, this shows a bridge bridging the gap here. That is a long-range proposal with a bridge in there. Bear in mind that these are going to be done in phases throughout several several years. As a matter of fact, we have labeled the project Vision 2030. So we're looking at a 10-year workable situation. The next slide is coming east towards the village of Cardinal or the Legion, and it shows where the turnaround is just east of the Conestoga dive site, a series of parking lots. However, you can see a gray area in the water, which is indeed the Conestoga dive site, and in sometime in the future, there could possibly be an educational platform built to give information to people that are there and for both divers as well as the public. Moving further east, we come to what is referred to as Richardson's Point, which was developed many, many years ago to help with a beach in the area. However, there was some environmental problems with the point, and rumor has it that the village of Cardinal was assessed a great deal of money for doing that, and the beach has never been sustainable in that area. However, we do have a photo inset of something that could, in the future, be built in that area to fish off of or to just view, and could be sort of a little theater area if so decided. And also on these, you'll see the three lines, white lines that run down the road. That is a conceptual drawing of the roadway as well as a walking and recreation jogging path as well. Now in the next slide, this is of the Legion area, pavilion area, Legion area, and you can see the parking has been looked at. Again, this is a conceptual drawing and a nice area to approach coming down the hill over the gap, and there's two insets that could possibly be a future park center. And the next slide is the last slide in concept 1, and this is the eastern portion of the park area, east of the boat. It shows the boat ramps and east to the end to the Cardinal Power and the Ingredient Center, where you can see walking trails, upgraded parking lot, walking trails throughout, handicap accessible, places to sit and reflect and perhaps read some history of the famous Gallup Rapids that are right there. Now we move to concept 2, and again we start at the extreme west end of Legion Way, and again you see the bridge, which is there as a future project, and you see a walking trail in white down through the area. And then we move on a little bit further to the east, and we are now, brings us out to the Legion area, or the roadway to the Legion, where you can see things such as play structures, a little bit more parking shown there. The white along the river edge is the walking trail, and of course the white to the other side is the driveway or car passage. And also, perhaps in the future, a boardwalk along the canal side of the drawing. And again, you can see with the insets shown in the various places, the structures that could possibly be erected erected there. And I just draw your attention to the bottom one where you would drive into this park-like setting with the banners and the trees and the information towers there as well. I think I'm missing the next slide is either I'm out of order or,
Slide two.
no, I think I'm out of order. Okay. Anyway, the next slide, which shows the far eastern end, yes, eastern end, I've got it now, Steve. The far eastern end with the boat ramp and the walking trails again, and an inset as to what possibly may be put in at the far end. And then our next slide should be our midway point along the, and I apologize for the order that these are in, but the midway point closer to the Conestoga site, where you can see the turnaround, which would be the end of the driving road, and parking, and then the Conestoga site with a platform, again, just a different style of platform than what we had discussed before. And then I believe the last slide is we go back to Richardson's Point, which is partway between the Legion and the Conestoga site. And here we have another concept that could possibly be incorporated, and that is a pavilion style with some waterfront regeneration, boulders, rocks, whatever it might be, at Richardson's Point. But the nice thing about this, as you'll notice, is there could possibly be a bit of an amphitheater there. The land can be certainly done for that. Now, all these are going to be shown in large scale drawings at the public meeting on December the 16th, where we're going to get the input from the public regarding this. And one of the ways we're going to do that is we're going to give each person that comes in, we're going to give them some colored stickers, red and green, and we're going to ask them to take their red and green stickers, and if they're not in favor of something on the boards, to put a red sticker. If they're in favor of something, put a green sticker. And then that way we're going to be able to, we'll say, connect the dots and get a feeling as to how the public view that. So that's all I have for the moment. I'll turn it back over to Councillor Dillabaugh, if you have anything to add.
No, thank you. Just to make sure that we're all present on the 16th would be good. And to pass the word so we can get a good turnout. And we are looking at a 10-year period of doing this project.
So, my question right off the bat, and I'm more than interested to hear what the public has to say, but was there any question given to the practicality of some of these concepts?
We're going to get the feedback from the public on this. Some of these are very grandiose, I will admit. There's no question about that. But again, we're looking at a period of time of 10 years to look into this. We may only do some dock work. We may only do some walking trail work in perhaps those 10 years. However, I would just like to just backtrack just a little bit. This was originally first approached, I think, in 2010 or 11, It's now 2019, almost 2020, and this is the only thing that has ever come out of the original idea of waterfront development. It's going to take time, and yes, it's certainly going to take some money, but I think we can look at ways of overcoming both of those obstacles.
No, but when I'm referring to the practicality, both of the concepts show the bridge connecting the gap at the west end there. You know, what worries me is the voters are gonna have to have something to say about that. And the voters may or may not even be at the meeting.
Correct, you're absolutely right, and the bridge may never be built.
Well, I know, but if it gets a bunch of green dots.
Well, yeah, then we have to consider it, that will be our working point.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do.
What's that?
I do. In the four-letter on September 23rd, it just says, you know, the third-party consultant to assist with design and costing. So I'm assuming this is the design, and this design, or both these designs, should come with costing. So do we have costing ideas, or are we waiting to see those as well after we get green dots and red stickers?
Yes.
To all of those, or?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's in your disbursement package tonight, the cost of this, it's under under the.
Riverview landscaping, but
Riverview
I don't think that's a question. You're asking if we have prices for doing some of this project?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to show the bridge over the gap, but,
Right.
I mean,
We have absolutely
Absolutely
no,
no.
because we don't know what the public is going to tell us to do here, or which direction they wanna go. As I answered the mayor's question about the bridge, it may never get built. So, first of all, we have to find our starting point. If the public give us the idea that all they want is some new docks and a walking path, then that's where our energies will go. At that point in time, we'll be soliciting cost.
Yeah, but if you come up with 20 green dots on that bridge, and there's no voters there, you really don't get a balance.
But what's your problem with the bridge?
The voters.
What about it though? I think we're gonna build it, we're big enough where they get under it.
Well, that's not what it shows.
So the walking bridge.
Yeah,
I do believe,
I mean, that gap is used extensively by even the little cruise ship. It comes through that gap. No, this
Cruise
gap
ship.
is on the eastern
No,
side, it's
yeah.
the western gap that's used by
No,
the.
this is the western gap.
Yeah.
This is the
No, no.
western gap.
No, there's another
Not the
gap
one
out
east.
here,
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
on the
That's
other
correct.
side of the locks,
That's
yeah.
correct,
That's
yes.
the one that's used by the cruise
Yeah.
ship. But this one's used extensively by boaters. Especially the people that have homes here, because the people that have homes here use it continuously,
Correct.
all along this whole
Correct.
waterfront.
And if we get a series of green dots, the voters will certainly be considered.
Okay. We'll wait and see what happens. Let's approach it with an open mind.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Hunter?
I have a number of questions. First, we formed a subcommittee of 2 people, and we got a wholesale project put through here. Who else was on your committee?
The
Deb McKinstry.
CAO is on the committee, the.
Facility
Deb-
manager.
Deborah McKinstry is on the committee, Wendy is on the committee. Did I miss anyone?
Mike Spencer,
Mike Spencer, I'm sorry.
So they've all taken part in this?
Yes, they have,
and,
yes,
Okay.
on more than one occasion.
and Mr. Grant.
Yes.
When we got these proposals, how much did they cost us?
$5,188 right now.
How much?
$5,188. It's under Riverview Landscaping Limited, under our municipality disbursements.
I just think we're going about the wrong way here. I think we should have had your public meeting first and got the concept of what the public's idea was, of what they want before we present all these grandiose plans, because everybody's gonna want the grandiose plans. And to me, looking at this project, you're talking, even if you're spending over 10 years, you're talking millions of dollars here to develop this the way this looks, so.
Yeah,
This
well,
is something this township can't afford.
my question is, how many green and red stickers will each person have?
Several.
Well, do they have to, here's the point. If you give everybody a handful of stickers, let's say 12 or 15 stickers, they've got 12 or 15 choices to make. If you give them 5 stickers, they gotta make 5 choices.
Correct.
And it just seems to me that, in view of the fact that this is a very ambitious, we should be forcing them to limit their choices. In other words, limited number of stickers. Make your 1, 2, 3 choice.
They will have a, as well as the stickers, they will have a sheet that hopefully they will fill out, and unfortunately, I haven't got one of those sheets here at the moment. It's a series of questions. I think there's 5 or 6, whatever it is, questions.
Oh, so they're handed this sheet?
Yes, so they, it's a handout, so they can fill it in, and they have the option of putting their name and or email on the sheet as well. I'm sorry, I apologize for not having that sheet with me.
Any other questions before we go on? Okay, hearing none, I'm gonna go on.
Thank you. And we'll see you all on the 16th.
We'll see you all on the 16th, on this version.
You will?
I hope so.
Oh, yeah. Nobody will be there, that's for sure. Okay, so now I'm at item number 9 on the agenda, which is receiving correspondence. Councillor Hunt.
Excuse me, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah?
We have Township of Edwardsburg, a motion here for the municipality council receives the waterfront revitalization subcommittee update.
Okay, I don't have it.
I know that, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I have it.
Oh, you do?
I just don't have it in my package, so I didn't know there was a.
Moved by myself and second by Mr. Cameron.
Okay, so this motion is to receive the subcommittee update.
That's right.
Discussion, if any? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Okay, well, I'm gonna mark 1 opposed. We're receiving it. So I'll declare the motion carried, because it just deals with receiving it. Okay, so now I'm going to item number 9, which is correspondence. Councillor Hunter.
Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that municipal council receives the correspondence listed for the following dates as previously circulated December 3rd, 2019.
Motion's on the floor. Discussion, if any? Hearing none, those in favor? Motion is carried. And then approval of the municipal disbursement sheet. Deputy Mayor Deschamps.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that municipal council approves payment of municipal invoices circulated and dated as follows. Report date, December 5th, 2019, 2019-00249, in the amount of $1,906,319.50. Report dated December 6th, 2019, 2019-00258, $38,102.94. Report dated December 6, 2019, 2019-00260, $182,640.54, for a total of $2,127,062.98.
Okay, discussion if any? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried, thank you. And, I'm not, item number 11 on the agenda, which is approval of the bylaws. Bylaw 11A to appoint a municipal auditor, Councillor Dillabaugh.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cameron that the move be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to appoint auditors for the municipality, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
First and second reading on the bylaw, those in favor? Received, it's approved unanimously, it can proceed to third reading.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Cameron that the bylaw appointing auditors for the municipality be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 219-83.
Third reading of the bylaw, discussion if any? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried, thank you. And so then, 11B, appoint a court of revision to the JRDR municipal drain, Councillor Hunter.
Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps. That the mover be granted leave to introduce a bylaw to appoint members to the Court of Revision for the James Riley DeWitt Richter Municipal Drain, and this shall constitute first and second reading thereof.
And the members to be appointed to the court of revision are Doug Cleary, David Sloan, and Paul Henderson. And the appointments are for the term from December the 9th, 2019 to November the 14th, 2022. Discussion on the first and second reading. Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously. Can go to third reading, Councillor.
Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Deschamps, that a bylaw to appoint members of the Court of Revision for the James Riley DeWitt Richter Municipal Drain be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2019-84.
Thank you very much. Third reading. Discussion if any? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried again. And so now I'm at item number 12 on the agenda, which is the CAO's administrative update. And I'll call for the motion. Councillor Cameron, would you put the motion on the floor?
I
And then
will.
we'll have the CAO deal with this report.
I will, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Dillabaugh, that municipal council receives the CAO's administrative report as presented.
Okay, the motion is on the floor and the report is in front of is on the table. So I'll let the CAO highlight the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under administration, just under HR, CBO position has been posted, and right now it closes on January 7th, 2020. Update on the official plan review. The official plan was forwarded to the United Counties, and it is expected to rise at the Planning Advisory Committee on January 7th, followed by County Council on January 23rd. Under facilities and recreation, at the arenas, we had Santa visit both arenas last week, and there was a very good turnout of skaters for both events. Under operations, environmental services, Prescott wastewater treatment plant. At the time of writing, the meeting date had not been confirmed, but since then, there is a meeting scheduled for Tuesday, December 17th at 5:15 p.m. Under fire department, human resources, 5 members invited to start recruit training on January 8th, 2020. And emergency management, staff have uploaded the 2019 compliance submission, and the submission is currently being reviewed by the field officer. A little shorter report this month.
Questions of the CAO with regard to his report? Councillor Dillabaugh.
The meeting, December 17th, is that right? For the water treatment, wastewater?
For the wastewater treatment plant board, yes.
Is that open to anyone?
I'm gonna speak more about that
Oh,
in a minute.
okay. Is it open to anyone?
I'll speak at the mayor's report.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any other questions?
No.
Just one quick one. We had an inquiry from, that I can't seem to find at the moment, and I thought it was in our last correspondence from the Township of Augusta, calling for a business retention tri-municipal meeting, and I can't seem to find it anywhere again now for some reason, but I was hoping that maybe we would have an update on that, or can we maybe get
Okay, so, there was some talk
back
about
to
that.
them on that, or?
Maybe, so if I may, through the CAO to the clerk, or to the clerk through the CAO, who wants to talk about that meeting?
Well, I can give it a shot. I believe we received that correspondence, and it was forwarded out to council about that, and we have received no further follow-up at this stage with
Okay,
respect to setting of a date or a time.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we've responded to them. I don't have that in my back.
I just come in the package, I just picked it up tonight, in the package, that's likely on there.
Okay,
In the December 5th
it's in the December package. Okay, so the idea, as I understand it, is that the Council of Augusta has called for this three-party meeting, and they haven't specified a date or anything. Does this correspondence that we have, does it require a response? I guess that's the first question.
Well, through the mayor, I believe that if council is interested in participating in a three-way meeting with Prescott Augusta and ourselves, then we should certainly respond to indicate that we would be interested in doing that.
Okay, so at this point, we haven't done anything. We've just seen the letter.
That is
Okay,
correct.
so now that we've seen the letter, maybe we should have some discussion about it, because this is the last time we meet until January. So, Councillor Hunter, you've got it in your hand. Can you just tell us what it says? Because I think I recall it, but I don't.
I'll read it. It's moved by Councillor Henry and seconded by Councillor Bowman. Be it resolved that council support the development of a joint business retention and expansion session with the three municipal stakeholders in South Grenville, and that Judy Murillo facilitate the meeting. And it's carried by Doug, and made it to Resolution 4 on November 25th, 2019. And that's all it says on it, so.
Okay, so,
Am I wrong in thinking that there was more than that, though?
No, so if I may, I believe within the email that was received with that resolution that Mayor Malenka was to touch base with the other mayors with respect to that.
you know what, it seems to me I recalled hearing that someplace too. But I've never had an approach from Mayor Malenka on that issue. But it would be helpful if he does approach me in the next little while to know where council stands. Do we want to go into this kind of thing or not? And you know what? Let's leave that question in abeyance till I get to my mayor's report, because I'm gonna talk about this wastewater management meeting. And maybe the two somehow tie together. Go ahead, did you make a point?
I'm just thinking that at least, and maybe the CAO can help out with this one, is that we make at least, that we have it and we're taking it under consideration, comment back to them. I don't want to appear like one of our neighbors did when we've written letters and made submissions to them and received no replies at all, and I don't want us to appear that we're being like that.
Right, and I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, at least
We want to acknowledge.
and maybe we already have, But that we're taking it under consideration, and we'll get back to them with something.
Well, let's go a little bit further than that. I mean, let's be magnanimous about it and say that we're interested, and let us know, give us 3 or 4 dates to.
I'm interested.
Yeah, give us 3 or 4 dates to work with. Anybody any objection to approaching it open-minded?
Is that
I
in the
don't have any
correspondence
objections.
package? Is that the correspondence package you've got?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I
So
don't have
mine's
any
over there.
objections to us being involved in something like this, but I have a bit of an objection to them picking who the moderator's gonna be of it. I think we should have more, somebody that's involved with economic development rather than a fundraiser.
The two roles kinda are meshing together, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah, and what would we suggest as a moderator? Would we suggest, again, and I think your concept that we're looking for somebody that has a little bit more knowledge about economic development.
if we're gonna be involved, I don't know, we haven't made a decision yet whether we're staying involved in the St. Lawrence Corridor economic development or not, but we have members that we're paying to be on that. Would one of them that's working in the thing not be a better moderator?
Absolutely not.
No?
Excuse me.
Then I concur.
We have
That's,
the United Counties too, we have all kinds of economic development ones on it, so.
and Weir would be the only one that would come from that department. What is your thought about that?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My thought is that Ann has 4 or 5 people on her staff, and I'm sure she could find somebody who would be able to help.
I tend to think that if the request went to the County Economic Development Department, I know who the choice would be. Although I think that Jim Hutton would be an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of clean hands.
He's just part-time, so he's gonna be leaving shortly, so.
Would we be so bold as to suggest that name?
I just think somebody more involved with economic development and stuff, and have a little background in it, would be more to moderate something like that. If we have questions to ask them about steps and stuff that are taken, that somebody has a little insight in what counties and different ones have been doing, so.
I'm gonna stick my neck out here and say, I'm gonna suggest that we respond to that initiative from the Township of Augusta. We respond to it in the affirmative, give us a choice of 3 dates, and we would respectfully suggest that Mr. Jim Hutton from the county's Economic Development Department would make a neutral moderator,
Yeah.
a neutral, suitable moderator. And put that right in our response letter. Would we get a nodding of heads on that?
I think so.
Yes? Am I getting a nodding of heads?
You're like me.
Well, the chair's looking for direction here. If somebody's got a better idea, give us a better idea. Chair's just seeking direction. I quite agree with Deputy Mayor's point. We really should respond.
Yeah.
And the more response we can be, the more affirmative that we can be, and the more helpful that we can be, the better it looks.
Is there a situation here where the moderator has already been chosen and nodded and hired?
No, we don't know that. And we shouldn't assume it.
So, yeah, I guess staff is looking for direction on it.
Yes, well, the chair's looking for direction, so don't feel bad.
I just,
Well, the reason that I'm thinking this is that if we respond in the affirmative and show interest and say, give us a choice of 3 dates, and if we don't address the question of the moderator, we know who the moderator will be. So I think it's incumbent upon us to go that extra step.
I nodded in the affirmative.
Okay, we would suggest Jim Hutton from the County Economic Development Department. And he was heavily involved in the Business Retention and Expansion Project. So we would respectfully suggest he would be the moderator.
So we're saying yes if Judy's not the facilitator?
No, we're not saying that. We're respectfully suggesting.
Never thought of it.
And if they come back and say that we already have Judy, is that okay? And they give us the 3 dates?
Maybe none of those dates work for us. The clerk is laughing because she's seen this. I've played this movie before.
I'm not gonna play that movie, I'm not gonna be in that movie.
Well, then now's the time to get it stopped if we want a different moderator. I do not feel, personally, and I don't think I'm alone here, I don't feel that is the correct moderator. And I definitely don't feel that anybody from the commission is the right moderator either. So unless we come up with an alternative, that's what'll happen. And just because we put Jim Hutton's name forward, doesn't mean that it will be either Jim or Judy. There may be a third party that puts another name forward.
If I may. So it'll be like, I'm assuming, the tri-meeting will be an agenda. We'll follow an agenda, and basically all she will do is chair, and through Robert's rule, she will not contribute to the conversation. It'll be the 17 people in the room that will contribute to the conversation.
Except for one thing. In a deal like this, when you appoint a moderator, in effect, the moderator should have, theoretically, the moderator should have a significant input into the agenda. I mean, it doesn't matter whose rules of order you prescribe to, the chair is responsible for the agenda. Always works that way. The chair is responsible for the agenda. So, in many cases, the chair just abdicates that responsibility and staff prepares the agenda. But, I mean, I think Jim Hutton would have an awful lot more background to be able to contribute to the development of an agenda than would Judy Marine. And our only knowledge of her is the fact that she was a fundraiser for an arena in Prescott.
That's correct.
I have nothing against her as a fundraiser, but I've sat in meetings with her and she's not really that great at keeping people on track, so.
And I have no idea what this meeting would be designed to accomplish or what the agenda would even look like. I mean, and I've sat through 3 presentations on the business expansion and retention project that they did, which went on for the better part of 24 months, interviewed well over 400 different small businesses, well over. And to be honest with you, I can't imagine where this joint meeting would lead, but I'm still prepared to approach it with an open mind. You learn something every time you go to these meetings. You always learn something. You appear somewhat cynical. I'm speaking to the clerk.
She sat through them too.
Well, yes, you know, the BRNE project was pretty comprehensive. All municipalities under the UCLG did participate, but Augusta undertook a full BRNE. I'm not sure what level of participation Prescott had in that project.
0.
So,
They're not part of the counties.
right, so I guess maybe Augusta would be looking to share the results of their full BRNE, and see if there's any opportunity for us to pursue economic development jointly as a result of the ER&E project.
Right, and the larger overriding umbrella to all of that is Murmalanka trying to work, pulling us all together. I mean, that's the larger overall umbrella here. Keep us talking together. And we have no idea whether or not Prescott has responded to that either.
I think over the years, we've had all kinds of these meetings over the last 20 years for business retention and development and stuff, and I can see where Augusta's lost a lot of businesses, Prescott's lost a lot of business. I can see where they're really worried. They want to try to draw businesses back in, try to retain the ones they have. But fortunately for Edwardsburg, we've been very successful. Very few businesses we've lost over the last 20 years, and we've gained a lot of them. So, it's good to sit in and listen to them, but maybe a lot of them should talk to our staff how we're managing our businesses. So
I would like to reach out.
yeah, nothing.
I mean, reach out with, give us the 3 dates, and we would kind of like to have Mr. Jim Hutton and see what the response is. But we have to reach out, we have to work, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we just can't, I mean, just,
Okay.
What would they consider, or do you think that they might consider a co-chair?
What are you thinking?
Well, if Jim was the co-chair with Judy, then you wouldn't,
Well, that would
You
be
wouldn't.
very awkward.
well, you don't think that Awkward will be asking Judy not to be if they've already asked her?
I doubt if they have. Well, look, why don't we leave it this way? Why don't we respond to them that we're interested, we'd like to have some input into the agenda, and we'd like to have some suggested dates from them. Staff can do that much in the next day or two, and in the meantime, I'll try to get a hold of Malenka and see how heavily he's tied to Judy Marie. And I'll express to him our concern that we would prefer somebody different. I'll express that to him, and then that way it doesn't get in writing. And if he's, go ahead.
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Yes, I understand. Thank you for the reminder.
You're welcome.
And we'll approach it that way. But we get something back to them right away,
Yeah.
so that we're at least responding. Okay? All right.
So, just to be clear, you would like staff to respond to that notice provided by Augusta?
Yes.
That we would be interested in participating, provide us 3 or 4 dates,
And we'd like to have some input into the agenda.
and some input into the agenda. Okay.
Fair enough?
okay,
Okay.
better wording.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, everybody, we've got consensus there. Okay, now, did I call the question on the CAO's administrative report? No, I didn't. Those in favor of receiving the CAO's administrative report?
All right.
Thank you very much, the motion is carried. All right, okay, now, where am I here? Okay, I'm at 13, council inquiries or notices of motion.
Yes.
Okay,
I have one.
you have one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It has to do with the January meeting of the Public Works Environmental Services Committee meeting. That falls on January 20th, and on the 19th, 20th, and 21st, I believe it is. Some of us are in Toronto at the Roma Convention. And staff had brought this to my attention, and I'm just going to revert back to staff to give you an update as to changing a couple of meetings around. Could I ask your indulgence?
Thank you. One of the options looked at was that tentatively right now, the third week in January, the 15th, is the port meeting. And we would look to try to move the port meeting, if that would work, to the 22nd, and push the Public Works Environmental Services meeting to the 15th. That would give staff sufficient time to get everything ready for the council meeting on the 27th. If we try to hold off on the Public Works meeting to the 22nd, that only gives a day to get everything ready for council.
Okay, so we would be 15th and the 20th.
It would be the 15th and the 22nd.
15th and the 22nd. Okay, does that sound like a workable plan? Staff will have to negotiate that or arrange that. That sound workable?
It does.
Okay. Anything else to bring up under notices of motion, Councilor Fires? Councilor Hunter?
I have one more inquiry, same one as I brought up, I guess, the last meeting. Driving around the village here and northern end of the townships, I've heard nothing but constant complaints about the counties changing that speed zone to 50 from all the way to above the railway tracks in Spencerville. People were just livid over it. They said if they dropped it to 70 and then maybe down to 60 down by as they come up over the hill or something, but to have it at 50 from pretty near a mile outside of Spencerville, they think it's just absolutely ridiculous, so.
And I want you to know that at the county council meeting, I spoke about that. Because again, at the county council meeting, we had a request from Maitland a number of months ago. It was a big petition. I think probably pretty close to 200 names on it to put a speed limiting zone through Maitland. The director, the county director investigated, and after a fair amount of time and a lot of pressure from the mayor of Augusta, the county council finally put in a reduced speed zone through Maitland right down to 50. Then there was another request at county council for a reduced speed zone through Roebuck. Same sort of a situation with a petition and quite a number of names on the petition. When that second request came forward, I spoke about our experience on County Road 21. And I said that I've never had as much pushback on a reduction in speed as I had on this one, and that I think we're going to get more of them because the traveling public has a right to travel the roads. The roads are made to move people. And, you know, getting a petition that comes forward about, you know, it's a dangerous situation, and it's all perceptions, and people are acting on the basis of their perceptions, not on the basis of the facts. And I explained the fact that we put up speed limiting radars, and we measure the speeds over a 2-week period, and as long as the 80th percentile is within reason, we don't ascribe to requests for changes. We report back to the people that are complaining, but we don't ascribe to making changes. Now that didn't seem to cut much ice at county council. And if the people that are complaining about the reduction on County Road 21 want to do something, I think they really should get themselves some sort of a petition together and ask that it be raised back up to 60 from here to here. You know what I mean? And I wish, I have to say this, I wish that they would, that the traveling, motoring public would begin a little tiny bit of pushback. Because otherwise they're gonna see 50 kilometers an hour from Brockville to Pierpont, Morrisburg. You know, that's what's gonna happen. The 50 kilometer zones are getting closer and closer together all the time.
It seems, through the chair, it just seems strange to me that we can get a mile of road dropped to 50 kilometers an hour. As far as I know, nobody requested it.
No, there was requests.
Was there?
Yeah.
But we can get all kinds of requests from east side of Cardinal
Yeah.
coming in and they won't touch it.
Yeah. Well, and those ones from east side of Cardinal have never made it to county council yet. So, I mean, our township has actually asked for the facts. We've asked for the data. Now, how the County Road 21 request got to county council, again, I don't know, because it didn't come through this council. What came through this council was limiting the parking on the north side. And I think that the director felt that limiting the parking on the north side was only one aspect of the solution. And that if he was gonna put speed signs up there, if he was gonna put no parking signs up there, he had to reduce speed someplace along that stretch. And so he took the end of the stretch to be Cleary Road, which is only a couple of hundred meters from the auction house, I think.
Oh, it's had ways up in the auction house where they started the sign, so it just, to me, it just seems a strange way of doing it. You're gonna slow the whole public down for a mile, even if the auction house is there, that takes place one day a week.
Yep.
Good for home hardware.
Well, anyway, I don't know what to say to your inquiry, other than the fact that I have recorded in the minutes that there is a lot of pushback about that. Can we go on?
Yep.
Okay, are there any other inquiries or notices of motion? Okay, so hearing no further question, I'm going on with item number 14, which is the mayor's report. And I'll ask, I won't call for that motion until I finish my report. And I'm totally embarrassed by the fact that I had it written out and it's sitting on the desk at home. But there's only one or two things that are of prime importance. The first one, of course, is the Roma Conference on January 19, 2021. I know that Councillor Cameron is registered. I'm registered through the United Counties. I will actually go on the Saturday because the counties, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus will meet on early Sunday morning. So that's the first thing. I'm hoping other members of council will register. Second thing, I did attend the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus meeting on Thursday, Friday in Kingston. And again, the main issues were the paramedic service in Eastern Ontario. We finally gave final approval to the draft report that we saw at the last meeting. And we've got a really very good communication piece that I'm going to circulate I'll give it to the clerk and the clerk will circulate it. A lot of discussion around the Ontario health teams. The special advisor to the Minister of Health was there, Jim Pine. They're proceeding to do their consultations throughout the province. They won't be everywhere, but I think there is going to be a sort of a community gathering of some sort in Haliburton or some such place in Eastern Ontario, where there will be an opportunity for basically municipal input is what they're looking for at this stage. The other thing that was discussed, of course, is the Eastern Ontario Regional Network, EORN, and that's the Cell Gap project. And again, I can't understand exactly where this project is because the feds have committed their 71 million, the province has committed theirs. Now they're in the process of trying to get this contribution agreement signed. And they've been working to get this contribution agreement signed since way back in probably September. But of course there was a federal election in between, so that may have delayed it a bit. So they tell us that they're still hopeful to have the contribution signed by agreement signed by December the 31st, and they hope to be out to tenders on the project by early January. We'll see. That's the second thing on my report. Now, the next one is this wastewater treatment plant management committee, joint management committee meeting scheduled for Tuesday, December the 17th at 5:15 in Prescott. Now, I'm asking that all members of council be at that meeting. I can't invite you to be participants, but I can invite you to be observers, which means, and I'll warn you about this, please be there, but please be at the side of the room, at the back of the room, in the public gallery, wherever is out of the way. And whatever you do, do not interrupt the chair, or you will hear about it. So we had a meeting today, the CAO, the clerk, Deputy Mayor Deschamps, and myself, as to how to approach that meeting. There's a little bit of a backgrounder that I'm not going to bother about. It's a kind of a little messy email that we'll deal with. But we're trying to determine how to approach the meeting. And just for your background information, we held one meeting in 2017, one meeting in 2018, and so far there's been no meetings in 2019. Where the agreement that we have with Prescott clearly identifies them as the administering municipality, and clearly identifies that there will be a meeting in September where the administering municipality will present the budget for the next year to the joint management board. That has not happened for 2 years in a row. So we're trying to deal with that issue, and that's why I want every member of council to be there to see how we deal with it and what the response is.
In the council chambers, location?
I think it will be in the council chambers. They have been up until now.
To the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, and our delegation at the table is myself representing the township, and I have the CAO and the clerk and the treasurer as the backup for my position. They have their CAO and their treasurer present as well. So one thing that they have asked us to do is to submit our questions or concerns in writing ahead of time. And we did discuss at our meeting today some major issues that are outstanding. And just to brief you, so that you're not wondering where we're coming from at the meeting, one of the major issues is the following. The Joint Management Board was jointly agreed to under the terms of the agreement that was signed by the two councils when they met in March of, what was it, 2014. On that date, both councils met together. You were there? Both councils met together. The Township of Edwardsburg Cardinal presented the town of Prescott with a check over $1 million, and the agreement was signed by the Mayor of Prescott and the Mayor of Edwardsburg Cardinal, Bill Sloan, and simultaneously both councils passed motions accepting that agreement. So that's an agreement between the two councils, between the two corporate entities. Once that agreement is signed, the Joint Management Board becomes an entity unto itself with its own board and, theoretically, its own financing. One of the issues that's been outstanding with Prescott for a number of years is the question of a reserve account. They don't have reserve account policies. It's very difficult to determine how their reserve accounts are held, but one of the things that we've been asking for continuously is that the Joint Management Board, as a separate entity, have its own reserve account, and that money be contributed to that reserve account every year, and that the interest earned in that reserve account accrue to the reserve account. We have not been able to accomplish that. And at the last board meeting, which was in 2018, we made a motion that $1 million be contributed to that reserve fund. Now, one of the questions that we're going to ask is, was that reserve account set up as a separate entity with segregated money? And was the money invested as requested? And I think the treasurer can give us more detail here, and I will ask you if you will. We asked that it be invested in the equity fund, I think.
I'd have to go back through the notes that I have from that last meeting, so I can't confirm what you're saying, but I do remember that there was a request to invest the $1 million. I just don't know the specifics of
Okay,
the
so,
investment.
so be aware of that as one of the major issues of the board. And am I missing anything now here, either Mr. Grant or Ms. McKinstry? Am I missing anything here that members should be aware of as they monitor that meeting?
I believe those were the two main items.
Okay?
Big thing is, right from the time we first entered into the agreement with this, we paid a huge subsidy to our water rate that was supposed to be going into capital reserve for our share if they needed repairs, and over 5 different councils I've been on, we fought with them over getting accountability of where
That
this
money
money
went.
was, and we've never council here has ever got it, to my knowledge, so.
So the background for that, just for those that don't know, we were buying, that was water.
Yeah,
We were buying water from the town of Prescott, and we were paying 1 1/4 times the rate of a Prescott resident. The idea being that that extra 25% was to go to a reserve account for that water system. We paid that rate for many, many, many years, and there was never any accounting for it, never any reserve account set up that we could determine. And finally, to end the whole mess with the water, we just transferred, we bought X number of dollars, we bought a capacity of the plant capacity. And we don't even have a board or any involvement in the administration. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would it be possible to get a copy of that agreement?
Yes, 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 by all means. Yeah. Staff, look after that, please. As a matter of fact, just so that everybody's fully informed, it would be good, I think, if all members of the council had a copy of that agreement in their portfolio as they attended the meeting.
Thank you.
And be familiar with it as well.
we bought more capacity just recently.
Yeah, yes. Well, water?
Didn't we buy water?
No, on the water agreement, we've got 6,000 base, 7,000 cubic meters per month, I think, as the upper limit. And then if we bridge that upper limit, we're supposed to be able to buy more, but we're nowhere near the upper limit at this point. On the sewer side, we bought, I think, if I recall correctly, 10% of the capacity of the plant. And we're, at this point, the CAO tells me today, using about 6% of the capacity of the plant. And we're paying, I believe, it's 6% of the operational costs. Is that, have I got those numbers correct? So and again, we paid our share of the operating costs for 2017. We paid that in 2018. We have not, to this date, been invoiced for our share of the operating costs of 2018. So here we are in December 2019. We still don't have an invoice from them telling us what our share of the operational cost was for 2018. So that's one of the questions that we'll be asking. And what we will do is we will share with members of council the 3 or 4 or 5 questions that we're going to submit to CAO Armstrong prior to the meeting. Now, one thing I should warn you about, as of this point in time, every time we ask for detailed information, the meeting gets canceled. So while I'm telling you, please put December 17th, 5:15 in your book. Be prepared to hear from us at noon hour that the meeting got canceled. That seems to be the way it works. Okay, so that's the mayor's report. I'll answer any questions you have, Councilor.
I do, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Where did our $1 million go that we gave them in 214 then? Do we get a statement every year or?
No,
Pardon?
no.
We gave them $1 million in 214?
In 2014, we bought from them, that was the sewer agreement, right? Wastewater agreement. We bought from them 10% of the, I'm gonna say the nameplate capacity, the engineered capacity of the plant.
Of the wastewater plant?
Yeah.
Yes, and in return for that $1 million that we transferred to them, we entered into this agreement with them, where they would be the administering municipality according to this agreement that you're all going to get. That's what we got in return. And that agreement clearly calls for a budget to be approved in September for the next year. It clearly calls for 2 meetings or 3 each year. And it clearly calls for, you know, that there's going to be a full accounting for how that system is managed and financed. That's what we got in return for our $1 million. It's not happening.
Since 214?
We had 1 meeting in 2017, or 2.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, our financial statements and so on, we've never had any?
Well, I'll let the treasurer, just tell me where we are with regard to that. Have we had a full accounting of the years since 2014, 2015, 2016?
Yeah, through the chair, we've had full accountings up to 2017. We're still awaiting 2018's final numbers and
Right.
the invoice for 2018.
Right. When they send us the invoice for the year, we get a full accounting of the revenue and expenditures on the system. But what we don't get is an accounting for where the reserve accounts are. Or if there are any. We just get revenue and expense statements.
We don't even know if they're putting the reserves in for us.
That's the issue. That's one of the
We
issues.
have no idea.
No,
Or
that's-
if it has been.
That's one of the issues. And that's one of the questions that will be asked, I've asked today. Deputy Mayor and I met with them again, as I said. We asked the staff to prepare a series of about 3 to 4 or 5 questions, specifically zeroing in on those outstanding issues. Okay, any further questions?
I just have one question. We've been dealing with this for years and they keep avoiding these meetings. We have a legal contract with them to hold these meetings.
Yes.
If not holding them, there's gotta be some repercussion that we can do legally, but they have to be forced to hold these meetings. That was a legal agreement with them. We've drawn up like 2 or 3 lawyers went over it and drew it up for us.
That's right.
Is there
We
anything
were
in our
months,
municipality act?
we sat on it, you sat on it, we were months, pretty near a year getting this drew up and settled. But
Yep. And it's got the seal of the,
That's right.
yeah.
There's gotta be some way we get,
Well, it-
legally gotta be forced to do it.
But again, you get into the same situation. What is our legal recourse? Our problem is not legality, our problem here is political.
And I know,
You know, and how do you solve a political problem in the courts? I don't know.
But is
You
there
could spend a
something
pile
under
of
the
money.
municipality act that we
No.
have protection? There's
No,
nothing.
there's nothing in the act that's gonna protect us when we as 2 corporations have entered into a joint agreement it's over and above and beyond the act. Unless I'm wrong, is there anything in the act that we can rely on? I don't know of anything.
I mean, if I may, through the chair and CAO, you know, the agreement speaks to arbitration processes if the agreement's not being withheld. And we did go through an arbitration process with respect to taxes. And you remember how long and painful and expensive that was.
yeah.
And we want it.
Yeah, we want it, but at the end of the day, do you want to undertake that kind of cost and time and effort just to create a couple of meetings a year? Should be
Yeah.
something that's just done.
See, so, you see the problem that we're in?
I know the problem, we've been through it for years with them, so.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion before I call for the motion to receive the mayor's report as presented? So, Deputy Mayor, would you bring the motion forward?
Absolutely. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor John Hunter, that municipal council receives the mayor's report as presented.
Thank you very much. Those in favor? Motion is carried, thank you. And then the next item is the question period. I see the gallery is empty.
Oh, my.
Item number 16 is a closed session, we have none. Item number 17, the confirmatory bylaw, Councillor Dillabaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Cameron, that the bylaw adopt, confirm, ratify matters dealt with by the resolution be now passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 2019-85.
Thank you very much. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. The chair is looking for the motion to adjourn. Councillor Hunter.
Okay, I think I wrote it in for 10 o'clock.
Oh,
Whoa, now.
Careful, John. Moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Dishon, the municipal council is now adjourned at 8:08 p.m.
thank you very much. Those in favor? Motion is carried.